So there's a lot of terms that get thrown around the literacy world that are often not defined for parents. And one of the ones I want to look at today is morphology. As defined by Andrew Carstairs McCarthy, professor of linguistics emeritus at University of Canterbury, morphology is an area of grammar concerned with the structure of words and with relationships between words that involve the morphemes that compose them. And those morphemes that compose them are defined as minimal units of grammatical structure. These are the smallest bits and parts that we can build words from. I think if we're teaching reading and spelling to children or to adults, and we're not looking at morphology, it's a little bit like teaching music to somebody and only looking at notes, but not looking at like rhythm or harmony or the keys that something is in. You can certainly put together these notes to make some music, but it's going to be easier and more fluent. It's going to make more sense if we understand what key something is in, or in the case of literacy and spelling, if we understand why something is built the way it is, not just the sounds represented by letters in a word, not just the phoneme-grapheme relationships, but the morphemes. Why is a word built the way it is? We use morphemes to build words, and these basic elements include bases and affixes. The affixes include prefixes and suffixes and the lesser known connecting vowel letters. And our bases can be either free or bound. Every English word is a base or has a base. It really carries the core of the meaning. Free bases can stand on their own as words. They are independently recognized and used in our language. I'm going to look at the free base think, like Thanksgiving. It's November. I'm starting to think about Thanksgiving. Thank obviously stands on its own. We all are very familiar with this word, but we can certainly add affixes to it. We can add lots of suffixes like the S for thanks, thankful, thankfulness, thanked, and that's a nice one to see that thanked. There's a t, but that ed is how we spell it because it's our past tense suffix. We have lots and lots of free bases in English, and these are a really great way to introduce this idea to younger children in particular. Then there's also lots of bound bases in English, and these are bases that if we saw them, we would not initially recognize them probably. They don't stand alone as words in English. They need to have things fixed to them. They need to have prefixes or suffixes to be actually a word that we use. I want to look at the bound base FER that comes from Latin to carry, to bear. And I am in love with the word conifer. I mean, I live in the Pacific Northwest and surrounded by evergreen trees, but when I first started studying morphology and I learned that it was the cone carrier, I swooned. So I think this is a fantastic bound base to look at. It's a really great base to show us the importance of stress in English. When we know this word family, we are no longer going to spell a word like suffering, S-U-F-F-R-I-G, because we can think about, oh, this is related to suffer. And very few of us will say suffering when we're speaking. And of course, if we're a young child and we want to write the word suffering, we're not going to think suffering to ourselves unless we already know how to spell it. Now, bases are different than roots. And so if we look at this bound base, FER, that came from a Latin word, and that root is that Latin word that gave birth to our English base. So just like the English base came from the Latin root, the Latin also evolved. The next deeper root we can see, the Proto-Indo-European root. This is based on all sorts of features of languages that have this common ancestor that linguists then use to reconstruct their best guess at what Proto-Indo-European morphemes would have sounded like. This is not a written root. So when you see these roots in Etymonline or other resources that show the history of words, Proto-Indo-European roots are not written. This is linguist guess based on lots of science and study of what the root would have sounded like. If we go to the mini matrix maker here through Neil Ramsden, this is one way we can organize our morphemes into a matrix, and you simply type in the base, which you need to know how to find. So starting with a free base would probably be the easiest way to go. We can do our think, and I capitalized the T to make sure that this gets bold in the matrix, where it's just common practice that all the bases are in bold font, and you get that by capitalizing the first letter. So that uppercase T, and then below can start building all of the relatives in this immediate word family. So I can build by simply using word sums, where I really put that plus between the morphemic elements. And when I'm ready, I just hit update and it will build me a matrix. Now, of course, if I'm putting in wrong information, my matrix will have wrong information. So it is important to understand the morphemes, but certainly with simple ones, anybody can get started with this. There's lots of other ways we could represent morphemes and put them together. I've seen people use, magnetic blocks and dry erase blocks, and of course you can just write word sums. You can look at a word and try to analyze what the morphemes are, try to figure it out that way, or you can start with your already divided morphemic elements and put them together, synthesize them. By providing morphology instruction early on, you are providing children with a way to write beautiful music. You're not only teaching them about the notes and that if you push this note, it makes this sound. If you write this letter, it might spell this. You're giving them the structures. You're giving them the key to tune into. You can start with little bits, add it in, it will add up. Don't feel like because the terminology is new to you or you're not exactly sure what's going on that you can't explore that with your child and help grow their understanding alongside your own. I'm Kathleen Love with Rain City Reading. Thank you so much for watching this video. It has been my dream for years to provide free content for parents who are in the trenches trying to support their kids and maybe don't know where to start. Parents, you can make a difference in the day-to-day. You can support your child with little steps that will add up. And I'm here for you. I'm going to keep making videos. So please go ahead, subscribe, share with other parents you know that are struggling. Let's get the word out that you're not alone and that you can help your kids.